Hot mic start. Welcome in to Inside Carolina's On the Beat podcast, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt. We're going to get this podcast done, but I'm going to freely admit, and I think everybody here will agree, and maybe and hopefully everybody watching, everybody's tired. Everybody's tired ahead of the holidays. It has been a complete insanity at Inside Carolina covering football stuff, covering basketball stuff. Adam and Jeremiah were just in Charlotte covering Carolina and hell, who'd they play? Oklahoma. See, I almost said Michigan. It
How
is.
did you forget TA?
I know, really, it has been that type of show. But we're going to try to do our little new format. Producer John's going to carry the weight, but I'm going to get us started. Here's what I'm going to do this time. The past couple times I've said, favorite quote, and then you guys go into it. But I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say quote, moment, or story, and y'all can take it wherever you want to take it, and we'll cover all three. And then at the end, we're going to have a debate, the second half of the show, and I'll give everybody a tease. Biggest win of the season so far. That is the debate topic, and I need some thoughts as to why. But anyway, Jeremiah, I'm going to tee you up first. Quote, moment, or story here on the Beat.
Cool. I guess I'll open this up with a little story. It's not just kind of to set it up a little bit. It's not related to any of the particular games that happened, but it was something that obviously happened on the road. So the story, the overall story, and I'm going to kind of bring us there, is about the time, and this was actually yesterday, to be completely honest with you, that I scored on Joel Berry in a basketball game. So shout out to Joel Berry, obviously, who's with us now. But the way this kind of came all together, when we were in Atlanta, Brendan Marks of The Athletic was out there, and he was talking to me about the Jumpman game that we were about to go cover, and he was asking me if I was going to do the media basketball event, and I didn't know about it until he told me about it. So he got me plugged into that, and so he ends up sending me an email. And it's kind of funny. He ends up sending me an email, and the email has all this kind of details in it. A lot for a pickup basketball game. The game was in the Spectrum Center, so since it's a Jumpman event, you can't have other brands on. You have to you have either Nike or Jordan. I have two pairs of basketball shoes. I always keep in my car, an indoor and an outdoor. My indoor pair is Under Armour, so obviously can't use that. And so what ends up happening is they actually provide us with some shoes, fortunately. So I was able to kind of use some of those. So I got some Tatum ones. So that was pretty cool. So we get in there. You have to sign a waiver first. So I actually get to meet Joel Berry, just kind of briefly and, kind of introduce myself, things like that. So we sign the waiver, we get out there. The way it's set up, it's the two goals. There's one half court side where you just shoot around, and the other half court side where you play 5-on-5 half court. So I'm going to the pickup side. We shoot around and all that stuff. And there are a few special guests that are also there. One of the guys that kind of runs the event had a few special guests. So obviously the people in North Carolina are going to recognize these names. We had Thomas Davis was out there. Jonathan Stewart was out there. And for a little bit, he came a little bit late, but Luke Kuechly was out there. So I think he played in two of the games. And so they kind of, after we, kind of get done warming up and shooting around, they pick teams. So Debbie Antonelli was one of the captains and Thomas Davis was the other captain. So Thomas Davis picks up me, Marty Smith of ESPN, Jonathan Stewart, missing somebody, and a guy named Andrew who covers Michigan. So the first game that we play, and this is kind of the part that I'm kind of getting to. The first game that we play, I have the ball. I'm on the wing. Someone else is guarding me, so I kind of drive past them. I'm going up to go for a layup, and Barry's rotating over help defense in the paint. So I have to adjust a little bit and then kind of finish with the layup. And so that is how I was able to score on Barry. So we end up we were only out there for an hour. My team actually ends up going 4-0, which is pretty cool. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story. Marty Smith, for those who are familiar with him on the Marty McGee show, that dude is actually a really good one-on-one scorer. has moves he can just kind of go to and all of that stuff. Thomas Davis, funny enough, wanted to foul like every play, even though he was the biggest man on the court. But we were on the same team, so I didn't say anything about it. But yeah, that was probably one of the cooler. Not the game in general was probably one of the cooler things that I've done. So yeah, that's my story of the week.
Let me ask you this: if Thomas Davis was on the other team and was whining about fouls, would you have said anything to him? That's a big man.
Yeah,
He was a beast of a football player.
I mean, I probably would have said that exact thing. Like, you're the biggest man on the court. Like, we gonna foul you. Like, you know what I mean? So, but nah, he was definitely lifting us for sure. He was getting a lot of buckets for us. He sat out that last game, but he was getting a lot of buckets for us. So, but yeah, I thought that part of it was kind of funny.
That's cool. He is my son, and him share the same name. Not named for him by any means, but share the same name. Pretty cool deal. Adam, quote, story, or moment?
I don't know where to go with this, honestly, because all of the stuff that I have, I don't know. It's kind of, it could take over the show.
Hey, if it's good, it's worth it.
You know, I'm glad Jeremiah had a good day yesterday. That's great. The rest of us were taking bullets over at the Keenan Football Center. You know, that's wonderful. He had a nice time. Well, I really don't know what to do. Well, see, one of my stories is like around Eric Montross's passing. The other, you know how the anecdote and the story goes kind of side by side. The other anecdote was going to be why Mack Brown was chastising me yesterday while Jeremiah was having fun.
Can we hear that one?
Well, I just don't know if I want to go negative with it. I'm trying to keep it on a positive. You got the tree back here. It's the holidays.
It's the holidays. Yeah, it's the holidays.
You know,
I'll save you. What did you think? What did you think about his statement?
Just a strange. Mack Brown has done 1 million national signing days, obviously, and I just thought that was one we've never seen from him before. Because usually it's, you know, like an hour and a half, 2 hours of him introducing everyone that they have signed and telling, you know, just introducing him to the UNC family. You know, we signed Tommy Ashley out of Johnson County, and you know his mama made us some apple pie, and I couldn't eat another piece of pie, but she insisted, and man, we got him to sign, and he's going to be a hell of a rush defensive end for us. I do believe, you know, like, you know, it's usually story time with Grandpa Mack. So that was different, very different yesterday, because he gave about an 8.5 minute opening statement. When we got there, I didn't realize that he was in a bad mood. So, you know, I was like, "Hey, Mack, how's it going?" And so, you know, the opening statement consisted of him sort of giving an overview of the class. Then he said he had 2 things he wanted to address, and he was going to have to leave to go to a staff meeting, which I was like, "Wow, didn't envision a staff meeting for you on the National Signing Press Conference." And so he got on. I'm seeing some of the comments over here. Sean Crowley. Sean knows what we're talking about. He sort of got on the group for information about Kobe Paysor getting hurt again, which we got a story from Evan Rogers on that. If you haven't seen it on our website, about he's broken. Kobe Paysor has broken a foot again. It's not the same foot he broke it in October. He's broken both feet in practice this season. He's not going to play in the bowl game. The very quick backstory to that is on Monday when we were going over to practice to talk to Chip Lindsey and to talk to Gene Chizik, and I was a little amped up because I knew that we were going to have to ask Gene Chizik a few tough questions. We're standing there outside of practice, because you're not allowed in to watch practice. And, you know, you're standing there, you're right across from the baseball stadium, Boschmer Stadium. We're there at the indoor facility that also has outdoor fields. And, you know, the gate is going open and closed all the time. People are going in and out. And the gate swings open at one point before we were allowed in, and here comes a guy driving like the golf cart type thing. Kobe Pasor's in the golf cart, and he is visibly upset, and he looks to be in pain, and he was reaching at his foot. So I was like, well, damn, that's seems significant because he hasn't played since Syracuse, and he's trying to get back to playing the bowl game. So after we wrote about what we heard from Chip Lindsey and Gene Chizik, which the Gene Chizik news was obviously kind of a big deal, I was packing up to go home. And I was like, just to be honest with you, it was the end of a long day. I was packing up to go home. And I was thinking, well, damn, I remember the Kobe Paysour thing. And I was like, that seems newsworthy. What I probably should have done was check with people over at UNC. I don't think I did anything necessarily wrong, but they did not like what I did. I posted a probably 75 or 100 words on our message board, our subscriber board, describing what I saw because I thought it was newsworthy. And I was going to check with them the next day or on Wednesday when we were over there and say, hey, can he play in the bowl? Because it looked like in that moment, he would not be playing in the bowl. Bowl was 9 days away, I think, when I posted it. That was the news that I posted. 9 days from the bowl, Kobe Paysour looks like he's hurt again. So there's a lot of comments on this thread about he had been rushed back too quickly and things. People making assumptions. And so anyway, to fast forward over to Wednesday, which seems like about a lifetime ago, Mack was not happy about that. But he did not call anyone by names. It was not a very big group over there. He did not call anybody by names. Interestingly enough, when we got to Charlotte, and this is, of course, after Mack said the Dave Doran stuff that he said, which sort of went apocalyptic, at least in my head. I was running around. I was sprinting around. Like it was me and our video intern, Jalen Harrell over there. Jalen looked at me when Mack said what he said, and his eyes were as big as saucers. And I didn't say anything, but I was like, I feel you. We have ourselves a situation here. This has gone from, we've all been there. This has gone from what you expected it to be about these signees to this is breaking news. And this stuff's about to go all the way out, So anyway, I'm packing up and I was running. But anyway, Mack sort of, before he chastised Dave Doran, he chastised me without saying me. He said, that shouldn't have gotten out. You should check with us. You can watch it on the video. I can't remember exactly what he said, but that information shouldn't have been put out without double checking with us. And you should be better than that. I don't think he said unprofessional, but he basically said it was unprofessional. So when I finally got to Charlotte for the basketball game that night, it was a long day yesterday. I see Andrew Jones from Tar Heel Illustrated, one of our competitors, all the time. Andrew's a wonderful dude. I love him to death. And he just, we're getting ready to cover a basketball game. We're trying to get on the dang Wi-Fi, which was terrible. And at a place called the Spectrum Center, by the way.
It's so damn.
It's all. It's been bad since whatever it was 2 or 3 times, whatever names it was 2 or 3 times before. But AJ was like, "What did you make of Mack and the Kobe Paysour thing?" Like, I was trying to rack my brain what we might have done. And I said, AJ, he was talking to me. He wasn't, he wasn't talking to Michael Coe and Art Chansky, and he was not talking to the DTEH, but he was talking to me without saying my name, which is fine. My brother is texting me now, which is great because I had consulted him about an Eric Montross story from when we were both teenagers, which obviously was the dark ages. So I'll get to that once I don't hog it. But anyway, that was one of the stories that it was a different kind of signing day, is what I would say. And you all who watched they live stream it, right? You all who watched the live stream probably thought that too.
Well, I saw it. I did, the Inside Carolina deal with Don Callahan.
Right.
We went from 7 a.m. to noon
wall to wall. Unreal.
That is, I got a text from a friend of mine and said, "Are y'all wearing Depends? Because nobody's taking a break."
You got a NASCAR driver suit on or whatever they use.
Really?
Well, so I was going to ask you, Tommy, because like that's, I mean, for those who don't know, like signing day is the real deal. I mean, like if you're covering a team, it's a pain in the neck. Did you like just load up on coffee, Tommy? Are you a 5-hour energy guy? What are you doing over there?
So I like this kind of stuff, and folks that are listening to this show can sort of see the inside baseball type deal of everything we do. Adam, Jeremiah, Evan, Ben, all those people. And Michelle, of course, is the unsung hero of the bunch. But so I get up at 4 a.m. because Don lives roughly an hour away from me, and leave the house and get there at 6:30, and Don's got his man tower partially ready, and I drink coffee all the time, Adam. This is not coffee tonight, but it has been a little bit earlier. But
but go ahead.
But we get into it. We start up at 7 o'clock, and it's Don and I. And the way it's done is folks fret all the time about signing day, but most of the time it's pretty settled as far as what's going to happen with the letters of intent and all that. So anyway, Don and I start doing it, and each, they drop one every 10 minutes, and we talk about it. Greg Barnes shows up with some Bojangles. We eat some Bojangles. We need a Bojangles sponsorship for that show, by the way. And we go, and the next thing I know, Adam, I look at the thing at the clock, and it's like 10:30, and
I was watching you guys.
I was like, "What are we doing? It's 10:30 already. It's 3.5 hours, and we weren't even close to being done." And so it was my intention to go there to your thing to see Mack, which I'm kind of glad I didn't. But I hate that we left you on a tether. But we didn't get finished until 12 o'clock, and then when you break it down and then you do all that, and it's 12:30, 12:45 before you leave there, and I'm like, I cannot believe we just talked on the air for 5 hours straight, no commercials, no nothing, and but yeah,
real 5 hours straight.
Let me tell y'all something. Greg Barnes, of course, everybody knows Greg Barnes, but Don Callahan works his ass off covering recruiting, and folks, I always tell Don, I can't even figure out what my children are doing on a normal basis. Those guys, he's following around hundreds of teenage young men that are making decisions, and now with the transfer portal, it's just absolutely nuts. And it's part of what makes Inside Carolina special. But folks ask me how do some people do it. I have no idea. I have no idea how you guys do what you do, all hours of the night, and I have no idea how Don does it. But anyway. It was a pretty crazy day. You're right. And then I wanted to talk about the Mack and Dave Doran stuff. I mean, that was kind of wild, wasn't it? Just he drops that, he carpet bombs that in there. It's just like he lays the napalm down.
It was a walk-off.
And then drops the mic and be like, I'm out. I mean,
I don't know if you can hear it on the thing, but so, it's going on. All this is going on. And he finally gets done talking, or not finally. It's not like he went a long time by Mack standards. And I raised my hand. I went, because it looked like he was like getting out of Dodge. I raised my hand just like this, like a little boy in class. And I was like, and he looked at me. He didn't say, Adam, he usually likes to screw around with me a little bit. I just raised my hand, and he looked at me. I goes, Mack, can I ask you a question? Because I was going to ask him some questions about Doran. And he goes, no, you cannot. Walked off. Kimbe Mutombo. Old man flies in the house of Mutombo.
I got to go back and watch that video again.
I was going to say, this podcast knows how I feel about that. I cannot believe Dave Doran said that. I personally do not believe Dave Doran. I don't believe what Dave Doran says, that he doesn't know he was being taped. I don't believe that at all.
Oh, 100%.
Right behind him. He may have been mic'd up. ACC Network was there on their campus for that game. They got the damn, the setup outside. I don't believe that one bit. And also, let me just blast everybody. I personally cannot believe the ACC has not reprimanded him. He's called another team. I understand the rivalry. I got it. But like if Dave Clawson called Virginia Tech pieces of shit, pardon my language, like as a league, you have to at least reprimand them. Like you don't do that to the teams in our league. We're a college conference. That's not collegial.
Yep.
I don't believe Doran. I cannot believe the ACC didn't do something on its dang network. This thing is on its dang network.
Yep.
So anyway,
and the fan base over there loved it.
But that was what I was going to say. I was going to ask a legitimate journalistic question. Mack, have you talked to Dave Dorn about this? Did you guys try to talk it out? They're not friends anyway. But did Dave Dorn offer apology? Did you hear from the ACC? Is the ACC making you all shake hands and play nice? Is it a Gene Corrigan and Dean and Rick Barnes situation?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was going to ask some questions, but no questions. But on a positive note, we got to talk to 6 guys. I didn't know we were going to get to do this. 6 of the new enrollees. The videos are on Inside Carolina. And TA, watching you guys the other morning was helpful with that. To be honest with you, Alex Taylor, Jordan Shipp, Janny Norwood. So anyway, I'm rambling. Let me shut up.
It was a fascinating day, and I hate we rambled so much in the morning because I wish I'd have been in the Keenan Football Center because I'd have been with the popcorn and a drink going, this is good. This is getting interesting. John, get in here. We are sucking all the air out of the room.
I appreciate everybody's support in the comments, by the way. Thank you all. We love you. Thank you.
You know, I've been thinking about this a lot because I think it all sort of ties together as well with Mack's comments. 8 and 4 is pretty good around here. That's such a iconic line now at this point, especially on the message boards. The number one thing you think of when you think of Mack Brown is, he worked at ESPN before this job. He is such a great communicator. He is the CEO of the program. He understands how to use the media. He loves going on ACC Network and talking it up at the desk with all the guys, Eric McElwain and the great staff of ACC Network. And it feels like over the last month or two specifically, it feels like Mack has maybe lost a little bit of his ability to control the narrative, or maybe had a few self-inflicted media wounds. He's kind of lost a few points. I think that comment, the 8 and 4 comment, was a comment that a media savvy head coach does not make, especially if you compare it to maybe what Shane Beamer has been saying at South Carolina recently, saying, South Carolina's not at a bowl game right now. That's not good enough for our program. So I kind of contrast it with some of the other things that head coaches are saying around the country. And then yesterday, I thought it was really odd. Mack loves talking to the media. He will talk for an hour straight. He loves doing those press conferences. Signing day everyone wins signing day. It's the number one day for a college football coach like Mack Brown. You just get to sell your program. Everyone is 1-0 on signing day. Even Colorado is 1-0 on signing day, and they signed 5 kids yesterday. They can celebrate and take a victory lap. So I just thought that it was odd that Mack didn't have an opportunity to take questions, didn't get the chance to kind of expound on his recruiting class, like you were saying, Adam. And also, honestly, just even bringing back up that NC State coach's comments. I thought that was a little odd to bring it up. I mean, it's been
25
3-4
days,
weeks.
John. I
Yeah,
counted it up.
I mean,
25 days.
I feel like a lot of people had kind of moved on from it, and he should understand from a media perspective that any comment he would make would just kind of bring it all back up again. And I understand from his perspective, he's standing up for his players. I think there was a comment about how, some of the parents of the players, and, maybe that's a little bit of it as well. But I don't know. I've just been thinking about that a lot. Mack Brown, the great communicator, he understands the media. He knows how to kind of pull all the right levers in that world. And it feels like over the last month or so, maybe he hasn't been as sharp there.
There's a quote on the screen if you're on the YouTube channel. Yeah, they pay attention to everything. I'll say this, and then I'm getting back to our regular scheduled program. You want to shut that mess up? You want to shut your rival up from talking trash? Beat their ass. Period. Because they won't stop talking until you do. And if everybody notices, 3 years ago, nothing was coming out of Raleigh except the stench of getting their rear ends drugged. But now they're 3-0 in the last three. That's it. Rivals don't talk when they're getting beat. So, anyway, so
I've got a moment for us, Tommy. I can swing us back to basketball as well and get Jeremiah in here because I'm curious from some of your perspective from last night's game. How about Armando Bacot hitting a 3-pointer in the corner? I thought that
23.
was quite the moment for him. He has had such a long and illustrious career at UNC, but I can't think of a lot of big almost game-clinching 3-pointers that Armando Bacot has hit. So that's my moment. Stood out to me. Jeremiah, what was the atmosphere like in Charlotte last night, and any other takeaways from UNC's big win over Oklahoma?
Yeah, definitely. Yesterday's was, so to kind of put in perspective, their last three games have been neutral site games. So you had obviously Madison Square Garden. They traveled well, but it was certainly a UConn crowd. And then you had Atlanta. They traveled well for that one, but obviously Kentucky, those SEC fan bases, certainly traveled. So this one was a quasi home game for UNC. Even if you ask the net rankings, that kind of was like a semi home or whatever they say. So it was essentially a home game, for UNC, and they fed off of that energy, certainly. You obviously had the, kind of the defensive intensity was there. They had a season high in steals. And so a lot of that contributed. One kind of thing that I wanted to point out with yesterday's win, I guess we're going to kind of talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk more about the win specifically later. But one thing I kind of, want to talk about was kind of, Jalen Withers and like kind of where he's at with, the teams. We actually had a chance to talk to him the day before. So I had actually, was down in Charlotte like the day before the game because I was also covering, the women's Jumpman as well. And so we're kind of talking to him, and, we're obviously asking him, kind of the differences between being on that, Louisville team versus on this North Carolina team. And so one thing that he said that I thought was interesting, and I guess I can kind of paraphrase for the sake of time, but he said he felt he had to produce a lot more, on that Louisville team, just on both ends of the court. And he called himself more of a glue guy for UNC. He does more of the dirty work, things like that. So I think with him, and the reason I bring him up is because obviously, he has his like hot and cold moment, so to speak. I thought the Kentucky game, he actually played pretty well, not necessarily scoring a ton of points, but just, playing pretty well. And then last game, obviously, fouled, some 3-point shooters a couple times. I know he's kind of done that a few times as well. So, I think with him, as the team does kind of continue, because that was the best defensive game that they played this year, as far as obviously a top opponent. So for him, I think if he can kind of get more involved and kind of get more playing time and be just, obviously just kind of out there and available, he has the tools and obviously the athleticism, to kind of be that defender that they need him to be. So, I certainly feel like if he can get on the court and stay on the court, it can kind of fix the defensive really struggles they had been having. They had given up 92 to Tennessee and they won the game, but 92 to Tennessee, then they gave up 87 to both UConn and Kentucky. So, if they can keep up that defensive play, especially going to ACC, I think he would be a big part of that for sure.
You are listening to On the Beat live on a Thursday night. We appreciate the 129 people who are here with us live. I'm going to take a second to talk about Johnny T-Shirt, a loyal sponsor of all of Inside Carolina's podcasts. We appreciate them for showing so much love to us over the years. If you have any last-minute holiday shopping, need to pick up something for a friend or family member, head on over to Johnny T-Shirt. You're probably going to need to go to the in-person store at this point. You probably missed your boat trying to order online, but they might have overnight shipping too. So head on over to Johnny T-Shirt's website or to the store on Franklin Street for all of your UNC gear needs. We're going to be back in just a second with more discussion of UNC's win over Oklahoma and maybe look ahead to the bowl game a little bit next week as well.
All right, guys, welcome back to On the Beat. Like John said, shout out to the 120 plus folks in here. Sean Crowley in the chat has a question, and I don't think it's a dumb question, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much. But it is interesting that you play Carolina and Oklahoma women on Tuesday, Carolina and Oklahoma men on Wednesday, and you flip those. I mean, I guess they're trying to pull in the fan bases for 4 days, or excuse me, for 2 nights total. But it would make much more sense to just play a doubleheader, I think, as far as crowds and butts in the seat. Because if and Adam and Jeremiah, you guys can comment on this. It appeared like the lower bowl was full, or relatively full, but it was somewhat sparse in the upper deck, at least in the men's games, and then in the women's game, it was about empty, was it not? I mean, it's just I don't understand the mindset there, and it's sort of weird being Jumpman. It's a Jordan thing, you know. It seems like the dynamic of scheduling and promotion, because they don't promote it a ton, and all would be much better. But anyway, a good point about that Sean made here. Anything, Adam, that stood out from the Oklahoma game that maybe we didn't see on the court, a moment in the locker room, a quote in the locker room? You know, to the Withers point, I think the bottom line for Withers is when he knows what he's doing, he's pretty good. When he's lost, he looks like he has no clue how to play the game.
I have a blind spot for Jalen Withers because I like him.
I do. I think he could be really good.
I just understand that he has had some not great moments. I don't know what. Maybe it was when he played at Louisville. I don't know. I remember a good player at Louisville, not the guy that played on the 4-28 team. I don't know. I've got a blind spot for Jalen Withers.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. He can be. It's just he's a little bit maddening when he makes two. Yes. He fouls a 3-point shooter not once but twice, but then he can go and make crazy blocks, or that dunk he made a couple of games ago, flat-footed dunk. But anyway, go ahead, Adam. Give me a moment.
Well, when he has those when he spazzes out, it's not a guy that this guy's been in college basketball I think 4 years. I think this is his 4th year. You might expect a Zayden High, to be doing something like that, But, to Sean Crowley's question, I personally wonder if the Jumpman days are numbered. I'm not sure what they're doing with the 2 days thing. I think they're trying to milk it, getting as many people in there. Next year will be the third go around where all the teams will have played each other. Carolina will play Florida next year. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma will play Michigan. I don't know if the contract's renewed. I'm not sure. But if you're looking for a moment from around there, and I think Jeremiah could speak a lot better to the crowds because he was there for the women. I'm not sure how well the Carolina women drew. Obviously, it was a good win for them. They played after the double overtime game, so they were working the dang late shift down there. So I'm not sure what the crowds look like on Tuesday. I thought the UNC crowd was a good crowd. I thought our photographer, Jim Hawkins, there's a great shot he got of RJ sinking a 3, and he sort of got the crowd back there. You can see him running back the whole, everybody in Tar Heel blue. Check out the photo gallery if you haven't on our website. But yeah, I think Jeremiah makes a good point. It was obviously a pro UNC crowd, and they probably needed it a little bit after they've been in the Garden against UConn. Although there was a lot of Carolina fans there that night, but it was definitely a Kentucky crowd in Atlanta, or Catlanta, I believe they call it when Big Blue Nation is down there. But yeah, one thing, just, one little behind the scenes thing was a behind the scenes thing where, the women's game before the UNC Oklahoma game is going on last night. You could hear Carolina out in the hallway, just right outside the door, stretching. You can hear the sneakers squeaking. You can hear them talking and getting loose a little bit before they could get on the court. And you look out there and they've got the Montross shooting shirts on. You could see some guys back. I saw Elliot Cadeau's back in 00 Montross. And I was like, ooh. So I went running out there to take a photo of it. After Drake put on Tez Walker's jersey backwards in Charlotte a couple months ago, viral moment. I went want to run out there. And I'm such an idiot, and I'm also so old and so bad with technology. I'm trying to follow Elliot Cadeau as he's going up and going down and going up, and I'm like, God dang, it's not really good picture quality. I had Paxton Wojcik, friend to the media, a seasoned vet. Elliot didn't even know I was following him. I'm not fast enough to keep up with him. Seasoned vet, stand there still and took a picture of Montross, which, by the way, according to Hubert Davis stopped by after he left the podium last night to Inside Carolina. IC exclusive. He told us that was Eric Hoots' handiwork on the Montross shooting shirts. And Hoots also has been credited with the Walter Davis shirts, Uncle Walt shirts for the season opener after Walter Davis passed away. So that's what Carolina's played 11 games this year, and they've had 2 different special shooting shirts for 2 program legends who have passed away. But that was a moment when you looked out there and saw the guys in Montross shooting shirts.
What's crazy is none of those guys were remotely born when Montross was playing, even in the league for the most part, and everybody's a part of it. That was what was interesting last night when I brought up that to Dewey. Of course, Dewey's a little older than Justin, but to hear them tell the stories about Montross and everything. I mean, we were in school together. We weren't friends. Somewhat knew each other or knew of each other. He had a lady friend at Granville when we were there. But one of my favorite things is trying to get one of my roommates to hurry up to the elevator. And I looked in the elevator, and Eric's standing in there. And, of course, in those Granville elevators, his head's way above the door. And I say, man, I stick my head out. Hurry up, man. Montross is here. He's waiting on us. And my roommate did not believe me that he was in there, and then he came around the corner. So that was pretty fun moment. I cannot repeat what was said, but it was a funny moment. But, yeah, it's definitely a legend. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was at the DTH, it was actually my senior year. I got to do a Q&A with Eric Montross. Actually, it was the 30-year anniversary of the bloody Montross game from the UNC Duke. So every year, Daily Charter does like a UNC Duke special edition preview type deal for the first game. So I guess that one would have landed. It might have actually landed on the 30-year anniversary as well. So I actually got to do, a Q&A with him, and he was obviously, super nice. It was, really good conversation. So kind of after it ended, he definitely gave me like a good piece of advice and a compliment kind of as well. And he was saying he appreciated the kind of research I had and the questions that I was asking him and things like that. And so he was saying that obviously since he, was in media, really, he was saying that was a good attribute to have and things like that. So I definitely appreciated that, kind of being a younger, obviously, well, I'm still young. I don't even know why I said that, but obviously, I appreciated that. Certainly at that time, obviously before I graduated, get into this, and so yeah, certainly, condolences to to the family and and everything like that. Yeah, and like you said, it's tough stretch for UNC because obviously with certainly Walter Davis, Eric Montross, and then even I guess predating Montross a little bit, they had Cecil X, and they passed away over the summer on and Hubert Davis had attended that service as well. It was actually a day we were going to talk to him, and he actually came back from that. So yeah, certainly some losses this year. So condolences to all the families involved with those.
It's crazy, Adam. I need a story. You always have you have stories about people that were born in the 1800s, man. I need you to tell me a story about Eric Montross if you got a good one.
I'm old, TA.
You're not as old as me, so don't rub it in too much.
The older side of the panel on this side, the young, handsome, vibrant, side full of life on the other side. I have Eric Montross's phone number in my phone. Scroll through there, you see Eric Montross. I feel like back in the day, I remember Dino Gaudio breaking down at Wake Forest, talking about how he had Skip Prosser's phone number still in his phone, and he didn't know whether to delete it or not, but he kept it. That was an emotional time around there. But I have a bunch of Montross stories, but I hope this this is not disrespectful. It's pretty goofy, but it's pretty hilarious. It's been something that we in my family we've laughed about for 30 years, probably, maybe more. But growing up here in the land of milk and honey, Mebane, North Carolina, when I was a kid, I was probably like you guys and probably like a lot of our listeners, I loved going to basketball camps. I was bugging the hell out of my dad all the time to send me to every basketball camp I would go to. I went to Campbell basketball camp every year because it was pretty cheap, but it was also a really good basketball camp in terms of huge numbers. And I went to all the camps around here, Elon basketball camp. But I went to Mebane basketball camp because it was right here at Eastern Alamance and the Mebane Recreation Center. And one of the things about us being right here in ACC country, right in the heart of it, is we got all the time players from Duke, UNC, and NC State. And Wake Forest, actually, because we had a Wake Forest connection with a former high school coach of ours. We had Rodney Rogers break a backboard at Eastern Alamance one time. I got so excited. I was a teenager by this point. I went and got him to autograph one of the pieces that he broke. And then all the campers that we were supposed to be looking after, once we got to high school, we were supposed to be like counselors. I went and got some pieces for the kids, and then a bunch of kids got cut hands. I got in trouble anyway. But we had these great, it was an amazing hookup in a tiny place like this. It's grown a lot since then. You got like, I remember Bryant Fagans from NC State for some reason, Phil Henderson from Duke. We got Eric Montross. We got Pierce Landry. We got Pat Sullivan. This was Pat Sullivan of UNC before the back injury. This dude was, you know how it is when these guys show up. Everybody wants them to dunk. This dude, Pat Sullivan, was, reverse double cocking it. This is before the back injury. He had a back injury and he was a different player. Pat Sullivan was nasty, man, coming out of New Jersey, I think. He was he was a bouncy small forward. He's a big boy now, Pat Sullivan, but he was bouncy, man. But anyway, just such cool dudes that when you were a kid, you looked up to these guys watching the Raycom game of the week, and here they are, talking to these kids in Mebane. And when Montross came to Mebane, I was in high school by then. And so I was a counselor, not a camper. And so my brother and I were counselors back in the day. And our younger cousin, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but our younger cousin who lived in Raleigh was a kid, and he used to come stay with us for the week of Mebane basketball camp. We would take him to camp, and he would play and everything. We would ref his games, So I don't know what had gotten into him this day, but Montross is talking, to the campers. We're just standing around. It's totally, completely normal. And one of the kids had asked, I believe, was Eric married? And he was either I think he had just gotten married. He got married young, Montross did. He was either married or engaged. And I believe he said he was married. And our cousin, who again is a kid, as soon as Montross goes, yes, he goes, "Oh, great." Like that out loud. And it's like, the kids today would say, pause. What is going on? Our cousin is heckling Eric Montross for being married. Montross might not have heard him. A lot of people heard him. Montross was way up there, obviously, at 7 foot. He did not respond to our probably 8 or 9 or 10-year-old cousin going, great. I guess not a proponent of marriage at that point in the early 90s.
At 8.
So that's just one. I know that's not exactly a Chris Webber timeout moment, but we've told that one forever around here that at least one person didn't support him getting married at that age. It was pretty hilarious. And it's just one of those things that a kid does that you're like, what the heck's going on here? I don't know that he's ever fully explained himself why he did that. Great.
That's pretty awesome, man. Those basketball camps back in the day, you mentioned Campbell basketball camp. I went. Sam Perkins was there.
Oh,
Vince Taylor from Duke. This is way back now. This is the early '80s, and all those guys. And then you remember the barnstorming. I guess they still do the barnstorming games in some form.
sometimes they do. They tend to fall through these days. But yes, the barnstorming was awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
we we would go to those. I mean, Adrian Branch, Mark Allery. I remember I asked Adrian Branch why Lynn Bias wasn't there, and
Oh
he said,
no. Good
and
Lord.
he said he's not here. You know, he stayed back at school getting ready for the draft, and we know what happened after that. So that was one of my favorite things. But yeah, those back in the day, those type deals now, and I guess it's probably changed with the times and with NIL and all that. But you could hang out with all the players, and to your point, they'd come to your town, and it was like legendary. I mean, there was a kid from Smithfield almost got in a fight with Rick Fox diving for a loose ball in a.
Oh, we had Rick Fox come to Mebane too. That's a good one. We had Rick Fox. I remember thinking like, this is how people talk in the Bahamas. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, Rick Fox was bigger than folks thought he was. He was big and stocky, and they're diving for a loose ball. And a friend of mine, and if you're listening, I'm not gonna call your name, and don't dime yourself out. Yeah, they went at it for a loose ball, and I'm like, dude, that's Rick Fox. What are we doing here? And
He's
anyway,
going to the NBA. Like,
and you're battling this man, this grown man, and you're like a 10, 11-year-old out there. Yeah, just insanity. But anyway, John Bauman, save us from ourselves. The old side of the room is talking. We will share stories until the end.
One thing I wanted to say with respect to the Eric Montross news, I think I'm kind of right at that cutoff point. I kind of knew him more as, to be honest with you, the Tar Heel Sports Network analyst, because that's just sort of that's the age range I grew up in. I can remember watching the 2005, 2009 National Championship DVDs, and he would narrate those. So in that spirit, talking about Eric Montross, I did want to give a shout out as well to Jones Angel, Adam Lucas, Dave Nathan, all the Tar Heel Sports Network guys and girls, because I think their hearts are really heavy right now. That was their colleague, their partner for so many seasons. Adam Lucas wrote a nice column after the game talking about how I think their hearts are still heavy there. So we're thinking of Eric Montross's family tonight, but also just thinking of those guys, our friends from Tar Heel Sports Network, because they worked with Eric for so many years. Tommy, do we want to do that last question tonight? I think you wanted to set up a little poll for us, and we'll use the poll feature here within YouTube as well. We'll pull off one of our new shiny toys here within the YouTube chat. And you're on mute, Tommy. We got you.
poll. Wow.
Well, good. I was breathing heavy. Let me show this picture here. So, just relevant to the Montrose discussion. So, a friend of mine, or a friend of the family, back in '93, did the artwork for the '93 National Championship team. I think he got in trouble, maybe, for it. But anyway, I always thought it was pretty cool.
Well,
You got Montrose there in the middle with Salvadori and all the guys, and Dean holding I'm not good with this, holding a Michigan Chris Webber doll with the pins in it, a voodoo doll, and then Donald Williams with the hand on fire because he was hot in the '93 National Championship. But yeah, a lot of memories there. And John, to your point, for Jones and Adam and those guys to be able to get through it and do what they did to lead into the broadcast yesterday was pretty amazing. So anyway, so the poll, we're going to get back. So the poll is going to be biggest win so far for Carolina basketball. And I think we could probably narrow it down to Tennessee, Oklahoma. Maybe we can go to the Bahamas for a game. But John, throw those two, throw Tennessee and Oklahoma, and then somebody else into a poll on YouTube, and let our YouTube readers check it out. But Adam, I'm going to let you start. Biggest win for Carolina to this point in basketball. Most beneficial, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like at this moment. It could be come March when they're talking about this quad mess.
I will pass to Jeremiah.
Point to the passer.
I feel like I could argue both. or debate both. Not that it's an argument. I mean, do you want to go, Jeremiah? You don't have to. I'm dodging the question here. I can go if you're not.
I can go, yeah. I will say there was actually one that I was actually thinking there was one particular one Adam might have went to, so I had like a low key like deep cut one. So I'm
do
not
the same thing. The condition,
the condition. So
yeah.
I'm not gonna do the deep cut one right now. Maybe if there's time later, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say the Tennessee one. I will take Tennessee over Oklahoma because I think Tennessee is a better team, and B, I think that win is actually going to age a little bit better during the course of the year. So with Tennessee, a team that actually is a good defensive team, you score 100 points. You get into, obviously give up 92, sure, but the fact that it was a shootout and you were able to win it, obviously on your home court, you were able to withstand. Connect had 37 that game. You're able to kind of withstand that, and obviously, Tennessee's a team that plays with. Basketball's a physical sport, so it's always interesting to kind of bring this point. But yes, they do. They're one of the more physical teams that you're going to see. Obviously, an SEC type of team, and the way I think the SEC has kind of gotten better on the men's basketball side the last few years. I imagine some of the metrics and some of those things are going to like the Tennessee win. Kind of moving forward. And it was a game also in which your best players really stepped up for you. Because this was, Armando Bacot kind of struggled in the Bahamas, and he comes back and does what he does against Tennessee. RJ Davis had 20 plus. I believe Harrison Ingram had 20 plus in that game as well. So, it was a game where, the guys that you needed to step up really did to get 100 points on the top 10 team. I mean, that's, beyond even just the quad one or whatever you want to say about that. And Tennessee is back in. I mean, they're number 8 right now. So, I mean, it's still lived up to, billing, so to speak. So I'm going to actually go ahead and just say Tennessee is the biggest one they might end up having, period, this season. Even after ACC play, but I'm going to roll with that one.
Wow.
That's twice.
Tommy.
Well, I'm trying not to cough in y'all's ear, but Adam, he took the shot for you. Now you can clean it up. There's some interesting comments in the chat. I mean, Arkansas is getting some love.
Yeah, and I think Jeremiah made some great points because I think I was leaning Tennessee as big as Oklahoma felt last night. Yeah. I think I was leaning Tennessee for exactly what he said about the way it'll age, the longevity of it, what it might look like in mid-March. Not that Oklahoma is not going to look good, great, but I'll take the Oklahoma side of it. I will say, for the sake of this discussion, Oklahoma is the biggest win. Oklahoma is the biggest win that UNC has had, even though Jeremiah, I think, was hitting the nail right on the head. Was the fifth across. It was the 5th top 25 team UNC has played in the last 6 games. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
How is your strength of schedule not better than what it is? It's crazy. I mean, this is a damn schedule. Look at NC State's schedule. It's god awful. It's awful. Wake Forest, all due respect, they play Presbyterian today. It's terrible. But the timeliness of it, and they needed it. I mean, it was Armando used the word must win. I think everyone looked at it that way, and I think you also weren't sure what kind of 10-0 Oklahoma team this was. Oh, by the way, they're coming out of the Big 12 for whatever reason. I understand. I understand why the computers love the Big 12, but the computers love the Big 12. I mean, they're going to be the number 1 ranked league all year long unless some sort of, I don't know, travesty happens. I mean, so we used the word profitable. That was an interesting discussion on the message boards. It was a very profitable win for UNC here. The timeliness of it. You've got to win over the Big 12. You knocked off one of the 4 remaining unbeatens in college basketball. It's your second win over a top 10 ranked team, AP ranked team. And I don't think, and the neutral court aspect of it too. I understand the way the computers view a home win, which sort of takes a tad of the shine off Tennessee. Although I think Tennessee's great. It'll be a win not on your home court, and that'll be valued more. And it's important to add that too, because UNC had the 2 SEC wins, Arkansas and Tennessee, in terms of the power conference wins. And now you throw the Big 12 in there. So, you sort of have that to add to your resume, to your profile, that we weren't just 2-1 against the SEC with the loss to Kentucky. We're 1-0 against the Big 12. So that's what I'll say. I'll say Oklahoma was the biggest. They you saw the people saying, unbeaten no more. They had the cachet of knocking the Sooners off. I do think Oklahoma will be good. I'm not sure they're going to win the Big 12 over Kansas or somebody like that. Houston, is in the Big 12 now. Computers love BYU for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they do. So I'll take Oklahoma. I think both wins were huge. In a bigger picture, we were talking about this last night. I don't know if John and Tommy would agree. I think it's probably the best non-conference start for UNC in at least 5 seasons since 2018-19. When
I would agree with that.
Kobe White team, Luke May, Cam Johnson. The non-conference hasn't been great to UNC basketball the last couple of years. I think one of the reasons UNC fans are so in tune to quad 1 wins and the net and KenPom and strength of schedule is because January and February the last couple of years have been this search for meaningful wins because the non-conference, they hadn't been able to get it done. So I think from a larger scale that the Oklahoma win sort of puts not a bow on there, but is a nice topper to a pretty good non-conference resume.
Yep, and especially when the ACC is just not very good. There are rare quad 1 wins in the ACC these days. Of course, Duke probably going to be one all the time, but beyond that, it's a struggle to get it. And to your point about the schedule, before I kick it to John to go to the poll, the point about the schedule is one thing to play all these teams, which they've done. They've had tough schedules before, but this year they're winning some of them. And to beat Tennessee and Oklahoma, to beat Arkansas. And I think Villanova's maybe an iffy loss at this point. Villanova's good, but if you had to pick a loss that was not good, that's probably that one. But I think Kentucky's a good team, and I think UConn's a really good team. And so Carolina, to your point, 8-3 in the non-conference with Charleston Southern coming up, that'll be 9-3. There's not a whole lot to be upset about if you're a Carolina basketball fan, and it certainly puts them on the path to have a shot at having a decent tournament seed, depending on how the ACC fares. John Bauman.
And how about this? UNC did not trail for the second time this season, and both games were against AP top 10 opponents. So I think that speaks to something as well. They controlled the game in both of those matchups. I'm going to run through a few comments here from our loyal listeners. Sean Crowley says, I really like Arkansas game. Said it was impressive on day 3 of 3. So Sean has a vote for Arkansas. Garrett Clemens with caps lock on says Oklahoma was the biggest. Didn't want to lose 3 straight. And then Timothy Phelps, a little bit of a new name here. Thank you for joining, Timothy. Yeah. He said Tennessee beating Rick Barnes. That makes Dean fans smile. I'm going to go to the results of the poll as well. If you're listening on podcast, this is good motivation to watch us live on YouTube. You can vote in these polls now. 65% of our YouTube live audience picked Tennessee, 32% picked Oklahoma, 3% picked other. Tommy, take us home here on a Thursday evening, one of the last shows of 2023, which is crazy to say.
Yep, Adam made the point just a second ago. When we do this show next week, the football season is over for North Carolina football. The 2023 season will be over. Time truly flies, and it certainly flies doing these shows. It's already been an hour. Adam, we were talking about a 5-hour show earlier that I did with Don and Greg. Well, this hour's gone by in a blink. A couple things I want to remind folks of. Somebody was asking about Mack's comments. We discussed that earlier in the show, so check it out either on the YouTube or the podcast. It'll be the audio version that'll be out a little bit later this evening. Also, we're doing a live game plan for the bowl game. Greg Barnes, Jason Staples, and myself on Tuesday at 9 a.m. figure the day after Christmas, y'all are going to need some sunshine to brighten your holidays even further. Greg Barnes, Jason Staples, and I will do a live game plan. And then also there's an Inside Carolina Live. We've got one more of those ahead of North Carolina and West Virginia in the bowl game, in the Mayo Bowl on Wednesday. Kickoff at 5:30, so Inside Carolina Live will run you from 2:30 to 4:30 on wherever you get your stuff. You can speak into your smart speaker and say play WCHL, and it'll play us at 2:30, or you can stream it here and all that. So anyway, last but not least, our second sponsor on top of Johnny T-shirt is Congruity HR. They are wonderful for your small and mid-sized business. Go to congruityhr.com/Tar Heels, complete the form, get a great assessment, see if they can help your small business. I bet you they can, because they've got top-of-the-line technology, top-of-the-line customer service. They handle HR and payroll outsourcing, so you can handle your business while they handle your people. We all know that businesses are all about the people, but businesses are all about the business as well, and sometimes the people can get in the way of that. So you concentrate on the business portion, they handle your folks, they take care of everything, and maybe one day your smaller mid-sized business can be like Congruity, North Carolina based and now a national brand. Check them out when you do that. Anything left, fellas, before we get out of here, other than I want to tell you guys happy holidays? Go ahead, Jeremiah.
I was going to say my dark horse pick for that, if I didn't say Tennessee, I was actually going to go the Florida State route because, look, I mean, everybody except it looks like Wake Forest played a conference game. You'd rather be 1-0 in this conference than 0-1 because you already got, I mean, the teams that are 1-0 right now, Duke actually is 0-1, but Clemson is 1-0, Miami, even Virginia. So it's like, I mean, shoot, you want to get the conference started. And that was a game that I thought they were going to lose at a certain point in that second half. And they ended up coming back and winning it. So if I didn't say Tennessee, I would have went the more low-key route, and I would have said Florida State.
You know what's crazy is that tells you about the schedule Carolina's played, that we didn't mention Florida State before now. And so shout out to you for bringing it up, because I think you're right. Leonard Hamilton is the youngest-looking 70-some-year-old man I've ever seen in my life. He always has dudes on that team, and he's got some players. ACC's not going to be easy. You got Miami, you got Duke, you got Florida State, and Carolina to be 1-0. Not only 1-0 in the ACC going into the holidays and into the new year, 1-0 or on a win going into Christmas is great for the Tar Heels. Dewey talked about it. Justin talked about it. All the players talk about it. You don't want to go home for Christmas toting an L on your back, and they handled business. Anything left for you, Adam?
Tia, do you guys get overtime for a December 26th, 9 a.m. up early little podcast action? I mean, that's above and beyond, baby, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. I don't know when else we could have done it. You know, when you play in the Mayo Bowl and it's on the 27th, you got to do it sometime. And I didn't want to do it this weekend because after I sign off here and we get this story posted, I'm in full Christmas mode with Christmas drinks, Christmas eggnog, Christmas food, and all. So I'll probably be coming out of my coma about 8:30 on Tuesday morning.
Just full Clark Griswold. That's what I'm picturing for Tommy Action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without the lights on the ceiling, or excuse me, on the roof. But, yeah, 100%. And I want to wish everybody that watches these and everybody on Inside Carolina, have a merry holiday, a merry Christmas, a happy holidays. Be safe. If you're going to Charlotte to watch the bowl game, be safe. You guys will be traveling, I know. Be safe doing that Charlotte trip. Seems like we've done it a lot over the last few years, going to Charlotte to watch Carolina football game yet again. And shout out to everybody at Inside Carolina, and shout out to everybody that supports Inside Carolina. Hug your loved ones. Never miss a chance to hug your loved ones, and everybody be safe. Thanks, folks.